All right, welcome back to the channel, all you pure metal fans out there. Today, I'm going to do my top 3 Barren Cross albums. I know that several people have requested that in the last few months. Sorry I don't have your names, but anyway, so another statement about why this is in the top 5 would be because I think there are only 4 Barren Cross studio albums. So um, basically, you can't do a top 5 with just 4 albums, right? I think there's a live album too, so maybe that makes it 5, but that's not studio albums. So um, I think that they only did the 4 studio albums, period, anyway. So let's just get going here. Let's go. So at number 3, I have. There might be some contention about my top 3, but if you have a different idea about it or you just have comments in general, let me know in the comment section below. Tell me how right I am or how wrong I am. Go for it. So let me go with the first one here, or actually the number 3 spot. At my number 3 spot for Barren Cross studio albums is State of Control. This is, I think many would say this is their best album. Not so much me, because it's sort of a formulaic carbon copy of another album that they put out, which I've mentioned in my other videos, or one of them at least, that it seems like in hard rock and metal in the 80s, maybe across the spectrum, there might be also mainstream, I don't know, whether it be pop and stuff, things like that. If you have an album that I can name a couple of bands, another couple of bands, Striper and Petra, at least in the Christian realm, that that had they put on an album that was extremely successful. So then the powers that be thought, well, the next album, well, this worked, this great, this formula worked, or whatever. So they basically put out another album that was very similar in sound and structure and things like that. So that's the case with this, I think. State of Control. I mean, it's hard for me, honestly, to rank these, because I do like these 3 albums so much, and they're very, very close in my liking, in my ranking, or if you will, how do you differentiate? Because there's so many good songs on all 3 of these albums. But for me, the only reason that City Control is in 3rd place is because it is, sort of a carbon copy, if you will, of another album, which we'll discuss in a minute. But yeah, just fantastic album. I like the cover art too. It was a little different from anything else that was going on, I think, at the time, especially in Christian music. It's just, it's not a, there isn't a picture of the band in the front, let's just put it that way, which happened a lot with Christian metal. Anyway, so, you've got my favorite tracks on here are probably 2,000 Years really stands out to me. I really think that sounds a lot like Iron Maiden, and it almost has a Power Slave vibe to it. I don't know that there's a song that I don't like on here. I mean, State of Control, the title track's great. Out of Time, that's one of people's favorites off this too. So, that being said, and the copy I have here is on Enigma. I have one of the original issues right there. So that's maybe coveted, I don't know. If you want to buy it, message me. I don't know. Anyway, so in 3rd place is Barren Cross's State of Control. All right, in my number 2 spot is the debut Rock for the King. I hate it when it gets the reflection like that. Rock for the King. I toyed with putting this in 1st place because it is the debut, and I really like the more of a raw sound that they had on this. It wasn't overproduced, even though I think John and Dino LaFonte, yeah, they had already taken over the production on this. I know that there's a demo out before this. What's it called? Believe or something like that. But I never was able to get my hands on a cassette or vinyl of that. So, Rock for the King. This is their debut full length, and this is one that where all the Iron Maiden comparisons started, right? Uh, Dying Day could possibly be my favorite song on here. Um, Also, Rock for the King. So the opening tracks on both, side A and side B, if it were a cassette or an album, but it's a CD. So those are my two standouts on this. I remember this was probably one of the first 5 Christian metal CDs I ever bought. So back in 86, I think this came out. Yeah, 1986. Anyway, so keep this a little short. Barren Cross, Rock for the King. Great album. Toyed with putting this in number 1 spot, but it's my number 2. And I'm sure many of you have already guessed what my top number 1 place Barren Cross studio album is. And, well, maybe not. There's 2 to choose from. So, but here we go. Here is my favorite, and I think by a larger margin than between Rock for the King and City Control, I would consider those to be a little closer in my list of if I could flip those 2 and 3. But my number 1 most favorite is not Rattle Your Cage. It's Atomic Arena, right? So this is my favorite Barren Cross album. This is the first one that had the if you call it I'm really mumbling today, the biggest production, if you will. This is one of the first albums that John and Dino Elefante really went with the big sound and the huge background vocals and all that, which I loved in the beginning, but then it started to get kind of old because all the bands started to sound like the same. Petra sounded almost exactly like this too. So anyway, Atomic Arena is my favorite Barren Cross album. This is my number 1, and it's just it's basically, this is the standard, or this is the one I think that to go back to what I mentioned earlier in the beginning with the number 3 spot, which is State of Control. State of Control is basically a carbon copy of this album, formulaically anyway. It's kind of like Stryper's To Hell with the Devil, and then In God We Trust was basically, let's reproduce the success of To Hell with the Devil. Let's put out In God We Trust. So In God We Trust, as you know, has similar tracks, songs that sound very similar to Hell with the Devil, but just a lot more polished and a little more tinny sounding. I don't like the production on In God We Trust. But anyway, this is like that. And then also you have another example of that would be Petra's, I'm blanking out, Beyond Belief, and then Unseen Power was kind of like the carbon copy of Beyond Belief. If you know Christian rock and metal, you know what I'm talking about. So here we go. This is the Barren Cross's. This is the number 1 spot for me, Barren Cross, Atomic Arena. And it just, Imaginary Music, that's probably my favorite Barren Cross song of all time. I love that scream he does in that. He does like a 3-octave scream. Not octave, but he goes up 3 times. Great scream. Killers of the Unborn is on here. That's another one of my favorites. Deadlock's great. Cultic Regimes, Heaven or Nothing, very, very fantastic ballad type thing. King of Kings is great too. Living Dead. This, I think, has even better songs on it than Steady Control, like I said, which is trying to be a sort of a formulaic copy. So there you have it. My number 1 Barren Cross album, Atomic Arena. So, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Are you with me? Are you against me? And until next time, keep it metal and aloha.